So let's talk about the three biggest reasons for the spike in gluten intolerance, really within the last 50 years. Historically, humans ate gluten, a lot of it. We were poor, we had bread basically every day, and consumption of fruits and vegetables was infrequent, usually seasonal, and there really wasn't very much meat unless you were wealthy. Over the last 50 years, there has been a shift in agriculture production towards genetically uniform wheat, where farming involves breeding types of wheat that are more resistant to drought, they produce more reliability seasonally, etc. This isn't exactly the topic of GMOs, as wheat hasn't become genetically modified, but it's basically the same concept of genetic engineering of our food, and it doesn't just apply to wheat. Farmers had clear reasons for this shift. It meant higher yields, more profitability. The food industry and governments also jumped on this bandwagon too, favoring the predictability and cost efficiency of uniform wheat production for mass production, not just across the country, but also for exportation. The consequence of this is that it bottlenecked the genetic diversity in the types of gluten proteins that these plants produced. The gluten proteins of today are now much more standardized and homogeneous, and our bodies are now constantly inundated by this homogeneous, high concentration of gluten proteins, and not everyone can handle that as well as others. The second is our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome, which is crucial for digestion, has changed dramatically, even in the last 100 years. Think about what we just discussed. Less diversity from processed foods, and add on top of that exposure to other toxic agents to our microbiome, such as the repeat use of antibiotics, constant exposure to pesticides, glyphosate, and other toxins in our environment. This decreases our microbial diversity. When our gut microbiome isn't diverse, it struggles more with digestion and tolerance of gluten, but it also extends beyond that. Decreased microbial diversity increases the propensity for intestinal inflammation, leaky gut, and the downstream effect of many health conditions as a result. If you're wondering what are some of the signs of leaky gut, check out my video on 5 signs of leaky gut. I'll link it at the bottom. So all of these modern wheat products are packed with genetically homogeneous gluten, and it becomes even more difficult to digest, and our guts aren't getting the support they need to handle it. In some people, gluten literally transforms from a food to a toxin. Lastly is genetics. Our genetic makeup plays a role in how we handle gluten. The most well-known genes linked to gluten sensitivity are HLA-DQ2 and HLA-DQ8. While a significant proportion of the population carries these genes, not everyone will develop gluten sensitivity. An environmental trigger is necessary. And we've already discussed some of the environmental factors at play, from genetic homogeneity in our foods to pesticides and other toxins. Here's where today is different from yesterday. Studies have shown that these environmental factors can activate the immune response in genetically predisposed individuals. For instance, disruptions in gut microbial diversity, an increase in gut permeability can trigger these genes, leading to the body's immune system targeting gluten proteins, and this causes inflammation and symptoms associated with gluten sensitivity. So people have always had these genetic predispositions. We just never had the environmental triggers like we do today to trigger genetic expression of gluten sensitivity. If you're struggling with gut issues, autoimmunity, fatigue, or just feeling unwell, contact me to see how I can help at www.drmaxd.com. Talk to you soon.